Welcome everyone. Today I have an amazing monk build that will be demonstrated in a tier 18 map. So before we say everything, let's have a look at this monk or invoker build in action. Now looking right away, we're moving quite slowly, aren't we now? So let us show you guys the power of this latest monk build. Well, yes, as you expected, it is using infinite blinks, but we're not using spark, we're not using greater lightning bolt, the amulet, but this also makes the monk or the invoker incredibly powerful. So this is one of the latest variant my friend Helleios has been making and also testing, and it is extremely powerful. You can see that the mobility, the area of effect, the damage is ridiculous. And very soon we'll be testing this on 5-man parties with over 100 to 200 million HP boss, and you get to see the build in action. So how does the build works is that we're using Temporalis plus Temporalis, but there will be new combinations of triggering the force ward explosion, which increases the radius massively, but everything is automated. So this automated monk build is on the competition of the best meta build compared to the blood mage. It has multiple triggers. It can stack up to 100% critical chance, very similar to the blood mage, but without needing the blood mage ascendancy, as I will explain to you guys in the gems and also choices of the supporting gem for this particular setup. You can see the build is extremely mobile, and you can be traveling around across the map, across ledges, and also one-shotting everyone on the map. So the cornerstone of the build will require Temporalis, but we're also working towards making a cheaper version without Temporalis. Now let's have a look at the demonstration of this build against the map boss. So over here you can see this is going to be a tier 18 map juiced up to all the good modifiers and also tons of stronger monsters. But it doesn't really feel like a tier 18, right? So over here you can see the boss, and the boss is gone. So just to show you guys a better demonstration, over here we do have another boss with a 5-man party with over 100 million HP. And that was a boss. So it's hard to show you guys how good the build is because it does so much damage. 1 second, you don't even get to see the boss's HP, it's gone. This is how powerful the Invoker monk build can be, and I want to share with you guys all the secret mechanics, the links, and also the choices of the gears, which can be very cheap with some adjustment, which I'll be teaching you guys as well. There's also tons of versions to deal even higher damage, estimated over 1 to 10 billion damage, but we can't tell. Without the testing dummy, how do you tell? It's actually harder to get everyone in a party, and even if we got 6 players, you can't tell the damage, right? So the build is incredibly potent and very powerful in the current meta. Now, one of the biggest highlights for this build is its magic find. Yes, if I scroll over here, this is a screenshot of my friend Helleios' spells and also abilities. You can see that he's casting multiple spells with cast on dodge. The main spell that does damage have over 600% magic find. And if you want to make a max, you can potentially get over 700 magic find. So yes, while you are blasting everything with insane speed and also mobility, as you start blinking, you also have over 600% magic find with this latest variant. So should you be wanting to go for endgame farming, for some really juiced up maps, or any potential loots, you'll be getting tons of more loots because of the increase in magic find, which I'll teach you guys about the variants. You don't have to go for magic find, it will be cheaper gears, but if you want really make a max for the latest meta for magic find, you can stack over 600 using this particular setup. Now, similar to all the builds guide, we'll be providing you guys with all the skill links, all the choices of the gears, and also the juice and everything that's related should you want to follow this build, and also check your budget and also check the flexibility of this particular build. So make sure you use the timestamp below for everything that's revealed to you guys. Now, before we dive into the builder's guide, I would like to say thank you and also shout out to my friend Helleios, who was the player that showed us one of the strongest auto bomber build with tons of more damage. If you haven't seen that build, definitely check it out. And I know there was a lot of requests in the comments to talk about not needing Temporalis. We're actually working towards removing Temporalis from the build for allowing you guys to have a cheaper combination. It is a work in progress. I'll be revealing and also testing that build soon once it is ready. So in the meantime, if you want to see build and also mechanics without Temporalis, this particular video can help you a little bit before we finish testing all the build without using Temporalis, which can be very expensive. So coming over to a builder's guide, you can see there is number of variant. You can even have higher damage using the chaining staff with Sigil Power, which we'll talk about. There's also additional variant, which allows you to reduce the price and also budget of the build with less items. And this means you don't need the ingenuity build, you don't even need this unique one, which you can be removing multiple items out of the build, it still does incredible damage. At the moment, we have determined the only pieces you need is going to be Temporalis and also Temporalis. We're working towards making the build without Temporalis, which will dramatically reduce the price of the build. So stay tuned and also stay subscribed for the latest update without Temporalis, for the Blood Mage and also for the Invoker to come, and we'll be testing those for you guys. So coming over to a builder's guide, and let me briefly explain what is happening with the build. Well, the core concept is very similar to the latest meta setup with the Auto Bomber. You are reducing the cooldowns of all your spells and also blinks, so you can be casting those without any cooldowns or with minimal cooldowns with the latest patch change. And here we'll be overkilling those force walls with additional damage. We're stacking a lot of physical damage, and the overkill damage coming from Temporalis is going to be physical damage. The overkill damage is also stacked with increasing radius. We are amplifying our increasing damage through additional fire damage, so we'll be getting extra damage as fire. You might have seen the same weapon that was used in this previous video. Yes, it is quite a powerful weapon, and we'll be stacking a lot of magic fire on our gears, on the rings, everywhere else we can find it for over 600% magic fire or even 700% should you want to make a max. So how does the build work? It's not a cast on critical build, even though we have a 100% critical chance for the main spell. There will be two casts on dodge. The first cast on dodge is going to auto summon force walls as you blink around, and the force walls are getting destroyed by Bone Cage. This is a very cool mechanics my friend Helleios has been testing, and it's very interesting. So Bone Cage in this spell itself can have up to 15% base critical rate, which is the reason why we used to play Blood Mage, because the Blood Mage Ascension provided the increase in critical rate. So the base critical rate for Bone Cage is high enough so we can stack the critical chance for this spell up to 50%. And with the spell up to 50%, then we can use Ambush to turn this one into a 100% critical chance. So the main damage spell is going to be Bone Cage. And this spell is actually very powerful because you will trigger and also destroy when it touches enemies. But when you summon the force walls, and we'll be summoning a lot of force walls, when the Bone Cage touches the force walls, it actually leads to a chain explosion, and this overlooks the damage indefinitely, which is really powerful. So just to show you guys in the recording, you can see when the force walls are triggered, the Bone Cage is triggered at the same time. This leads to a massive chain reaction to the point that instantly when the force walls are destroyed, the damage amplifies AoE, and this destroys more force wall. So this turns into a white blinkish fog of death, that everything that comes close to you in your vicinity will get destroyed in one shot. The infinite amount of looping of this combination is crazily good. And yes, this doesn't use any sparks, it doesn't use the unique amulet, which makes the build cheaper. It is very flexible. You can even use this for any build, but currently Invoker might be the best choice over the Blood Mage because of this. Now on the second cast on dodge, we have the double force walls. We also have tons of multiplication of force walls. So 2 force walls is multiplied with fortress with tons of circling of force walls, with spell apple to double this, and with spell cascade to double this. I've started lost count, but you probably get over 10 or 20 of the force wall shard, and those all get auto exploded the moment Bone Cage gets casted. And the damage, overkill damage coming from the Bone Cage will destroy more force walls, in return destroy more force walls, cause more overkill damage, and those overkill damage are looping itself. So we'll be stacking a lot of physical damage, we'll be stacking a lot of bonus damage as fire, and with the Invoker class, we're dealing so much damage using those combinations of double cast on dodge. Of course, we'll have Blink with lower cooldowns, we have Green Fist for increasing survivability, we have abilities to be auto-casting Curse, so this build can be a hands-free build. We have ways to solve the mana gain issue. We have ways of dealing even more damage with spell damage with a multiplication should you guys want to use the Rattling Scepter. Yes, you can be summoning skeleton minions and also sacrificing them with the Rattling Scepter and dealing even more damage, which not that you really needed it. At the same time, you can easily go into the Unbound Avatar mode to become the superhero, and you have tons of increasing mastery to increase this spell even further. And that's not all. You can even use Sigil of Power to massively boost your damage with the second weapon swap. But again guys, we're dealing so much damage, everything's dying in one shot, and you can see that there's no need for increasing damage. To the point the build does so much damage, we can't actually see how much it does because everything is one-shotted, right? So this is the fun part about the build. But nevertheless, the build is here to show you guys, and should you have less gears or cheaper gears, you have a number of ways to increase survivability, more damage, and also more sustain using those various methods. So we wanted to share everything with you guys for even greater damage and also survivability. Now, on the topic of a cheaper version, our plan is to remove all the important gears. You don't need the Magic Find Shield. This is just here for bonus Magic Find. And all you need is probably Temporalis. You do not need Ingenuity. You don't need the Sacred Flame, but this will help. You don't need the Melting Maelstrom. Everything that's expensive can be removed except Temporalis. In the future, we will be testing and also working on a build without Temporalis, and it should work, but it won't have the crazy mobility. But it can still retain some of the greatest damage, but this is a work in progress. So, coming over to the skill links of the build. The first cast on dodge is combined with Force Wall, with Bone Cage, which is now the main spell that does tons of physical damage, with even greater critical chance of 15% base critical chance. It is combined with Concentrated Effect for more damage but less area. We'll be stacking a lot of area of effect with a Juice, which is going to be ideal for the build. We also have Ambush to double the critical chance, together with Inspiration to reduce the mana cost. This is preferable, you can go for something else, but ideally you are using a lot of auto casting spells, so actually less mana cost is actually really good for us. On the second cast on dodge, we have Double Force Wall. We also combine this with Spell Cascade, Spell Echo, and also Fortress for tons of 10 and 20 and multiples of the Force Walls, which you actually don't get to see in the demonstration, which all get destroyed instantly by the overlapping damage that is infinite looping. Now as for Blink, we can combine this with Ingenuity, with Arcane Tempo, and everything else is a bonus. You can go with Energy Barrier and also even Unbreakable to support the stun threshold. As for Grim Fist, you can combine this one with Clarity for more mana regen. Now Decimate, it is optional, because this is an auto-casting curse spell that provides us with constant vulnerability, which curses enemies to take more physical damage, and remember our overpowered damage is coming from physical. But again, if you're doing enough damage, you don't have to waste the spirit on this, so this is optional. This can be combined with Magnify Effect and also Heightened Curse, but this will increase the spirit cost of this particular setup. We will be using Mana Revenant because this helps you with gaining additional mana as you kill enemies. But again guys, if you don't have problem with mana, or if you're using the potions quite frequently, you don't have to be running Mana Revenant, but it will help with automatic casting and also tons of more casting of the spells. It is optional to go with Soul Offering combined with Obligation, Dense Macabre, and also Frontal Reach. The time you want to go with the Soul Offering is when you are using the Rattling Scepter. So ideally, you can use the Rattling Scepter combined with the Scepters that provide you with more mana gain, which is an option that I'll talk about in the choices of the weapons. So what you can do is, you can combine the Rattling Scepter with the Secret Flame Scepter, and this will give you tons of more damage, even additional minions to be tanking for you and also to be sacrificed. You don't need this shield because this is a bonus for additional magic find. And finally, the second weapon can also be a Chimney Staff, which means you have Sigil of Power that greatly increase your spell damage dealt. Now coming over to the skill passes of this build, you can see with the Ascension passes, we're coming over here, all the way over here for additional damage as lightning, for additional meta skill gaining more energy, which is really good from the Invoker. And here we have ways of ignoring elemental resistance with critical hits. And here we also have increasing elemental damage and also even unbound avatar. And of course over here, some of the major nodes you can see is going to be Chaos Invocation, means we don't have to be scared of chaos damage and don't have to build for chaos resistance onto our abilities and also our gears. Over here we also have Internal Youth. Now I forgot to mention in the previous video, Internal Youth means that you can use a health potion over here. So with the Chaos Invocation means you don't really need health potion, but having this node means you can use health potion again, which will restore your energy shield, which is actually really good. Now in terms of the rest of the other node, there's tons of variations we can be going for, but ideally we want increased energy shield, we want to have ways of increasing intelligence, and also tons of ways to go for additional gem socketing that I'll go through with you guys. Now over here I do want to mention it is possible for other classes to get the meta skill gain of energy, but because for us as Invoker, we have additional meta skill energy, we didn't go for additional energy because each of the blink will be triggering enough energy for those casting of the spells. So this is why we didn't go for those. And finally, you can look into ways of getting even more meta skill energy. Should you feel that you're not auto casting spells fast enough, you can go for those additional nodes. One of the reasons my friend didn't go for those nodes is that he is actually auto-casting so many spells, he's worried about his FPS. So yes, if you have FPS issues, maybe you don't need to be charging the enemy. You don't have to be charging the spell meta skill energies too much because this will affect your FPS. Now, should you guys have FPS problems, you can consider removing Spell Cascade, Spell Echo, and even Fortress if you want to. But ideally, having those will greatly increase your damage. But if you're really struggling with FPS, which hopefully you're not, as you can see in the videos, it is quite streaming. It is not laggy, it is not like killing the game, and it is acceptable. So on the off chance that you have FPS issues, you can consider removing some of those spells, and this will greatly help with FPS because it is auto looping over 10 or 24 scores, which is crazy amount of damage and also FPS lag. So coming over to the replays and briefly looking into the choices of the rare and also unique jewels. So one of the highlights for this build is that you'll be stacking with maximum energy shield, additional critical chance, additional spell damage, but also very importantly, you want to stack as much as area effect as you can. This will greatly trigger the chance of looping and also additional damage. Now my friend is using this special unique jewel called the Mattjestic, and one of the highlights is that this is allocated for glory. So if I come over to my game over here, you can see that glowing will reduce your maximum life, which is not a problem. It increases the amount of leech, which is not a problem again. Now I do want to add over here that glowing's additional leech of life does not help us with internal youth. So if you're getting internal youth over here, this will help you to gain additional energy shield using your flags. But likely this is not affected by going over here. And the bigger focus of going for this particular node to be anointed or coming from the unique jewels is because of the 40% increased physical damage. And again, this greatly increases our physical damage. You can even consider going for this particular anointment on your amulet if you don't have the special unique jewel that is shown in the video recording over here. And that is optional. Now during this time, in order to show you guys what are the choices of the jewels and everything related, in the previous video, we actually touch up on this in more details. So if you come over to the notes of the previous video, you can see there's tons of choices with anointment, which is very similar. We also have tons of feedback coming from my friend, so make sure you use the links below to come over to the notes to see additional choices and also anointment options. So at the moment, the current anointment for the build is going for additional charm slot. This allows you to go for multiple charms that resist stun, resist frozen, or even have additional rarity found with a golden frog charm. So sidetracking a little bit, now coming back to the jewels again. Yes, there's a lot of jewels I want to show you guys, and yes, there's a lot of skills that will increase critical damage, critical chance, and also additional ways to deal even higher damage. Now one of the highlights for the build is I will be using a Cleanse the Darkness jewel. This jewel will provide us with 12 increasing spirit per massive node. And additionally, the skills in the radius, the nodes in the radius, the big nodes, will provide us with increasing damage as additional fire damage. As you're gonna see in the skill passives and also in the gears, we are stacking a lot of increasing damage as fire damage, and this is the major theme for this fire-infused Invoker build. And you can see all the nodes over here are having increasing damage and also increasing spirit, which allows to run all of those meta gems. And of course over here you get to see some of the rare jewels, and those rare jewels are very similar with increasing energy shield, more critical spell damage, and also additional area of effect. It is possible guys to go with additional mana on kill, and this will greatly help you sustain because you're also casting tons of spells. And similarly over here, you get to see this particular juke. It is very similar to go for those. Again, it can be a little expensive. I'm recommending going with energy shield if you want to go with survivability, or go with increased critical chance or area of effect if you can. Getting 2 of the right effects is preferable for a cheaper setup to get started. Now, on the topic of the setup for this monk build, you can see that we're using this secret flame. Now, if you guys recall, we want additional extra damage as fire damage. This particular unique item was selling for about 10 to 15 exalt until we had the video to talk about it, and now it's selling for over 1 divine. And yes, I do apologize for increasing the price of those items. I wasn't expecting that. Ideally, you guys don't have to get the maximum 60% roll as the extra fire damage. You can get anything that is lower. But if you're lucky enough to have found a corrupted version, you can go beyond 60% to even 70% extra fire damage. So it's actually probably easier if I come over here to show you guys the gears coming from my friend. So you can see over here, he had a 60% additional extra fire damage, and this can be corrupted to be even further. But this is costing 1 to 2 divines already because of the inflation. You will be stacking a lot of energy shield on any of the gears with maximum energy shield and also increasing energy shield. Together with finding reality front on those gears can be amazing with higher critical chance and also higher stats. Now we're going to talk about the stats very soon because you will need a lot of stats for the choices of those gems and also abilities. So over here, this is very optional. You can go for any of the offhand and also weapon swaps that are provided to you guys in the choices over here. You can be going with a 2-handed swap, or you can go with any of those choices of the weapons. This is for mana solving. This is for additional damage using the minions. So the option to have this shield just means that my friend want to have more magic find built into the build. So not only this build does tons of damage with great survivability, it now has even better magic find. And having this shield to be corrupted together with 3 sockets can be quite expensive, so keep in mind. It is not a necessity of the build. You can have better stats with shield or any of the weapons we show you guys over here. This just gives you tons of magic find because of the sockets and also the amplification by 660% of the 30% magic find, which is close to what, like 200% magic find coming from the shield. Now in terms of the amulet, we have decided to not use the Greater Lightning Bolt amulet, which will make things a little cheaper. You want to go with additional mana, additional spirit, additional rarity preferably, additional critical damage, additional all stats is very important. One of the reasons you want to go with additional all stats is that cast on dodge actually requires you to have a lot of dexterity. And if you look closely over here, you can see this cast on dodge at level 14 requires 73 dexterity. And our character might not have enough dexterity or intelligence to make those work. So this is one of the first things. The second thing to have all stats is that this particular pair of boots also requires 47 strength. And sometimes you might not have enough strength. So having an amulet with all attributes and also any attribute you're missing can be very cheap. Can be a very cheap and also efficient way of finding the stats you needed for the gear. Or you can be using meta juice at higher levels because you meet the stats requirement for those meta trigger gems. Now over here you can see the anointment is actually Hunter's Talisman. This particular anointment allows my friend to be using 2 of the charms that is available. So you can see he's currently using 2 charms. Again, the choice is for you guys. You can be using any of the 3 charms that is available, or you can just use the gold charm for even more rarity found. With this particular charm, you can easily go over 600 or even 700 bonus rarity. You can even run 2 gold charms for even higher rarity coming from this setup. But of course, the things that can kill you in this build is going to be stun and also frozen. So you can be a little defensive using those charms as options. So you can be greedy or you can be defensive for the charms. Now briefly going through the rings of choice. We're using the bridge rings for tons of increasing magic find, together with increasing mana, increasing physical damage will help, but mostly we want increasing resistance. We want to be capping resistance at 75%, so you can see tons of resistance modifiers on those rings. Now, Temporalis is quite straightforward. You want to find a piece of gear with higher resistance, and preferably you want to have a lower cooldowns, higher cooldown reduction. Now, you don't have to be as high as my friend with 3.85. Now, in terms of the Temporalis cooldowns, it is preferable to get this one around 3.5 just to be safe, guys. And this will be the breakpoint for you to have more cooldown reduction for your blinks and also ice walls. That can also work if you quality 20 and also use the ingenuity belt or using Ingenuity support only blink, but preferable getting higher cooldowns would really help. And over here, of course, you can see the other bridge string with increasing rarity found, additional mana, more casting speed, and also even high resistance. Now the gloves are very similar to the helmet. Over here, we're getting additional energy shield, more rarity found, additional critical damage, and also more resistance wherever you can find it. We are using Ingenuity build, and together you want to look for 70, 75, or 80% for the breakpoints for every 5% for increasing stats. And finally, you can see Temporalis over here can be corrupted up to 37% overkill damage. Normally, this is about 30%, so you can be getting this one to become even stronger. Now, I'm sure at this time you also notice all the juice are socketed for additional rarity found in order to get over 600% rarity found. Now, briefly going through the skill rotations and also combos of this build, well, it is very straightforward and also self-explanatory. You're holding down dodge and you're just dodging and also blinking around non-stop. During this time, if you have SPS problems, go back to the choices of removing some of the supporting gems, but other than that, you're just blinking around. One of the biggest highlights is when you have greater area of radius, this will trigger even more explosion and also even greater AoEs. Having greater AoEs will also protect you from monsters getting closer to you, and this also deals even higher damage and also more looping. So going for additional area of radius or area of effect is preferable on your juice, which can be very important. Now, other than that, you're just blinking around. You're blasting across the map and everything's dying within a second or two. And there isn't that much to, discuss because you don't have survivability issues. You don't have mobility problems. You also have way higher damage than any of the build that is in the meta. So together with a combination of one-shotting boss with 5-man or 6-man combos, the build has everything. The only downside for the build is that we're still trying to make the build cheaper. The biggest combination for the build will still come from Temporalis. It is possible to take away Temporalis, but you will lose the infinite blinking. Other than that, you can still combine this, and in this video, the Chinese players were demonstrating in a 6-man party without Temporalis, it can still work, but it has some drawbacks, so keep that in mind. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this amazing Monk Invoker build. And yes, this is actually the first Invoker guide I covered. I'll be looking towards more guides with a various of classes together with Warbringers with infinite shouts. Yes, I'm looking for infinite shout build. I'm looking for a lot of different builds for different classes. And oh boy, the Invoker looks pretty good. It is on par or even stronger than the Blood Mage in terms of AoE and also speed clear. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about those latest builds, and I'll be looking into some of the strongest meta build, testing those with my friends, and also sharing with you guys for the latest update. And what I'll do now is I'll attach this entire replay of the demonstrations for tier 18, the boss runs, the 5-man bosses fights, and also all the gears, everything related to the build. So make sure you use the timestamps should you want to go through the build without the voiceover. Now, hopefully you guys found today's video helpful. Again, a big thank you to everyone on YouTube, especially our supporters, and also those of you guys who's been supporting me on Patreon as well. And we do have a new feature on the Mattjestic YouTube channel. If you click onto this, you can become a member. Yes, I've added this just recently, and this will allow you to have early access to videos that is posted a few hours or even half a day earlier if you want to watch those videos a little early. But yes, this will cost money. So please be aware the membership will cost money. And if you do want to watch videos normally, those videos will still be available after 6 to 12 hours, normally on the time we post those videos. And I'll be aiming to post at least one Path of Exile video a day. And this will be including guides, tips, news update, and also the latest tricks that is discovered on both the English and also Chinese community to keep you guys updated. And if you like those videos, make sure you leave a nice comment and also leave a like for those videos. Now, before we finish, if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so because I'll be looking into the latest Path of Exile 2 news on different communities and also on the official forum, official webpage. I'll also be looking into the best build for each of the class as the meta develops with the Chinese and also the English community. So stay tuned for the latest update and also guides for Path of Exile 2. And of course, this is gonna be a big month for us. And I'll try to bring you guys all of the latest content and also guides for Path of Exile 2 to come.